It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Mali. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello, welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin, and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Mali's players. Mali has reached every African Cup since 2002, and we covered them in both 2021 and 2023. Just a note on where we're at in our media casts. Last summer, we previewed the groups, teams, and players for the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. And we also produced a media cast introducing ourselves, which covers some of the priorities and quirks of what we do. It also has a quiz, which is still alive. Winners will get a mention on the media cast covering the teams of their choice. After this African Cup, we're going to tackle the massive 48-team World Cup in the summer of 2026. So stay tuned for previews of that, which will start in the springtime of 2026. So we're doing this media cast on Mali here and on the players in two parts. Part 1 here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors to categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. That's their chances of reaching the final squad. So we'll go into more detail on the players we think likely to reach the final squad, and less, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, and we expect that to be in early to mid-December. At that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here today and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections in Part 2. We'll update those things. Okay, so in this Part 1, we have 3 sections. Section 1, we're going to look at some general information on the team. In Section 2, the main part, we cover the candidates in each position and their likelihood of making it. And in Section 3, we summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. All right, let's begin then. And we're going to start with big names who are off the squad. So we're just going to give you the names here, and we will actually come back to them, talk maybe a little bit more about them in Section 2. So we have central defender Kiki Kouyaté, last appeared in June 2024. Fale Sako, the right back, actually kind of all over the defense there, also last appearing in June 2024. The captain, Hamari Traore, or he was the captain, last appearing in March of 2024. He's a right back. We have Diade Samaseku, who actually we have as still holding out a bit of possibility, but he last appeared on the bench in June of 2024. Cheick Doucouré actually didn't play that much for Mali, but he is a fairly big name playing for Crystal Palace in England. Last appeared in November 2023, so been off the squad for a while there. Moussa Djenepo, last appearing in October 2024. Moussa Doumbia, what a bunch of names this is. Last appearing in March 2024. Adama Traore 2 or Adama Traore Nos. January 2024 was his last appearance in the African Cup there. Okay, and that is our list of players who are, or at least seem to be, off the squad. Whew, that was a long section. Let's move on to club affiliations. For a while, I've been trying to kind of pare this down so that it doesn't get too much into the weeds. So we're going to try this one. For Mali, about half of the players are born or raised in France. French-born or raised, and then almost all of them play for top or secondary clubs, mostly in Europe there. So we do have some playing outside of Europe, but for fairly big clubs, say in the Middle East or Africa, and then only a couple who are playing for clubs that many people wouldn't recognize. So most of these are recognizable clubs. Basically, players still in Mali need to leave Mali and play for some of these higher level clubs in order to be selected for the senior team. That's the situation for Mali players. Okay, well, I think that went okay. Let's move on to recent games. And we're looking at 17 games over the period. In terms of when we talk about the participation of players, we're actually going to start with the African Cup there in 2024, January 2024. It's called the 2023 African Cup officially, but I'm probably going to say the 2024 African Cup for that one. 5 games they played there. That's not in the participation count, but it is our starting points when we do the summaries for each position. So we have 2 friendlies in March of 2024, 2 World Cup qualifiers in June of 2024, and then 6 African Cup qualifiers in the fall of 2024. So September to November there, all the African Cup qualifying was done. We do have 2 African National Championship qualifying games. We're not including those in the count because only players based in Africa can play in those games. So that would pretty much preclude most of their A team. There are 2 games there, and we might take a look at them to see if there's any overlap between. No, I know there isn't any overlap between basically the senior team and the team that plays in that tournament. So we move on to March 2025. 2 World Cup qualifying games there, and in June of 2025 they had no qualifying games, so just 1 friendly there allows them to experiment a bit perhaps. And finally we get to the fall of 2026 where they had 4 World Cup qualifying games in September and October, and qualifying ended. So I don't know if we'll see if they have any friendlies for November, but we'd have to cover that in part 2. Anyway, so those are the games that we're covering. 17 games. Let's talk a little bit about the formation that they use in those games. Again, we won't go into too much detail, but just like when we did the mediacast in 2023, it is a 4-2-3-1 formation in about half of the games, 53%, or 9 out of the 17 games, a 4-2-3-1 formation. Otherwise, they used 4-4-2 3 times and a 3-4-3 3 times. And let's just go over some summaries of this then. It was a 2-man central defense in 76.5% of the games. So about 3/4 of the games, we're going to see a 2-man central defense. So that means in 1/4 of the games, a 3-man central defense. In the African Cup and in the first 2 games in March of 2024, some websites say it's a 4-4-2 formation, but it's actually, well, it's a 4-4-2 diamond formation. So really, that's a 4-1-2-1 and then 2 forwards. So the 1-2-1 diamond in the middle is used in about 30% of their games. And what that is basically a defensive midfielder at the bottom, an attacking midfielder at the top, and then on the sides, well, technically they're wingers because it's a 4-4-2 formation, but they're not really for Mali. They tend to be either wingers or central midfielders, kind of could be central midfielders is my point. That's the strange 4-1-2-1-2 formation. The last bit of summary we'll do is the forward line. So about 69 or 70% of the time, it is a one-man forward line. So just a single forward there. And so in about 30% of the games, it is a two-man forward line. But I believe in the African Cup, it was more often a two-man forward line there. Okay, that's it. Our last order of business here is upcoming games. And yes, they do have a friendly scheduled for November. That's all we have going up to the Cup now, but I do suspect they might be scheduling a couple of other games, including warm-up games before the tournament. That friendly in November is on November 18th, and they will be playing Jordan in Jordan. So that's all that's scheduled so far, and we're ready to move on to Section 2, our look at the candidates and their likelihood of making it. Let's begin with the manager. Okay, let me get onto the right place here. The manager is Tom Saint-Fiet, and we'll talk about him too. But we'll just say the outgoing manager, or the manager for the previous African Cup, was Eric Chelle. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. It could be Chelle or Chelle. No, Chelle. It's Chelle. I can't think of any other way to pronounce it. Okay, so just a bit about Eric Chelle. He is now coaching the Nigerian national team. We had some criticisms of him in the 2023 Cup in that we felt he was trying to use too many players, and it always seemed to be a different player in different positions. Maybe that's clever, and maybe we're just bitter because it made the mediacast hard to do. But really, we did think it caused a bit of kind of chaos on the team. And mind you, they did reach the quarterfinals, so didn't seem to affect their performance that much. Anyway, he is out, and Tom Saint-Fiet is in. He's a Belgian manager, has managed a lot of national teams here, Mali since 2024, but before that, Philippines, Gambia, he took them to a cup. He managed Malta, Trinidad and Tobago, Bangladesh, Togo, and I've only told you half of the teams, but I don't want to bore you with a long list. That is an incredible career. In terms of tournaments, though, just the 2021 African Cup when he was in charge of Gambia, and he also took them through the 2023 African Cup. So he will be taking Mali through this tournament to make it 3 cups in a row for him. Okay, we'll summarize the position and we'll summarize the position. Eric Chelle was manager of Mali from 2022, and he led them to the 2023 African Cup. That was in January 2024, where they finished first in their group ahead of South Africa. They beat Burkina Faso in the round of 16 and then lost to host and eventual winner Ivory Coast. So perhaps he knew what he was doing more than we credited him for. However, the last game was quite painful. Ivory Coast, if you remember, they had a terrible group stage and just squeaked through, but did well all the way to win the tournament. In Mali, against Mali, who they met in the quarterfinals, they were just about out of the tournament until they scored an equalizer, and then Mali suffered Ivory Coast scoring a winner at 120 minutes plus 2. So in extra time of extra time, or injury time of extra time, that was a real burn for Mali. It didn't really cost the manager his job, because he wasn't let go until June of 2024, so a few months after the tournament. And then Saint-Fiet came in and led them through qualifying for this African Cup. They finished first in their qualifying group there, and he led them through World Cup 2026 qualifying, where they finished actually somewhat disappointingly third in that group behind Ghana and Madagascar. So we won't be seeing Mali at the World Cup there. That's the manager situation. So Tom Saint-Fiet, the name to keep in mind there. Let's begin by looking at the goalkeepers, or begin with the players by looking at the goalkeepers. We have no one at the definite level. At the likely level, we have Djigui Diarra, and he's in fact the captain of the team. Also at the likely level, Ismail Diawara, And then at the possible level, Mamadou Samassa and N'Golo Traore, both of those possible candidates. The players below that level, we're actually going to kind of just give you their names and a little bit of information just as we present them, because we don't want to go into too much detail on them. So we have Lassine Diarra. He got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2025. He didn't start any of their games. He was on the bench for 3 and then not selected for the last 2 matches. So Lassine Diarra, we think, unlikely to make it. Also, Youssouf Koita appeared a couple of times on the bench in 2022 and then was off the team for 2.5 years. He came back. He came back in September 2024 for 7 appearances on the bench. However, he was not selected for the last 5 matches. So, in the summary, we're gonna just mention that they did seem to have a couple of considerations there for backup keepers. We won't go into too much detail, but both of these keepers seem to be keepers they were maybe looking at to see if they would come into the squad. The goalkeeper who's off the squad is Abubakar Doumbia. Seems to be off the squad. He actually has no caps for Mali, but he was selected for the 2023 African Cup team 2020 in January 2024 as a backup keeper. But that was his last appearance for the national team. So he is off the squad now, or so it seems. So we have 4 candidates, 2 at the likely, 2 at the possible level. Let's take a closer look at them. So Djigui Diawara has been with the team since 2015 with 72 caps, and he's 30 years old now, captain of the team. One of the few players actually playing in Africa. He's with Young Africans in Tanzania since 2021, and he was with in Mali, Stade Malien, for 10 years prior to that. So keeping it in Africa is Djigui Diawara. He's been part of the national teams since the 2017 African Cup. He was a starter in 2019, but just on the bench in 2017 and 21 and 2021. And it came as a bit of a surprise to us that he was a starter also in the 2023 African Cup, but recently he's been, ever since that cup, has been more involved, and we're going to see he's a likely candidate, so that means he's been called up a lot. Okay, the next one is Ismail Diawara. He's with the team since 2021, and he has 10 caps and is 31 years old. He plays actually one of the smaller teams for Mali players. It's IK Sirius in Sweden, so most people won't be familiar with that. However, prior to that, he was with AIK and Malmo in Sweden, so some more recognizable Swedish clubs. You might guess that he was born in Sweden and all of his clubs have been for Sweden. So Ismail Diawara, a backup keeper in the 2021 and 2023 African Cups, and didn't start any games during this period, but was around enough that we think he is a likely candidate. We'll tell you a bit more when we get to the summary. There. Okay. The first of the possible candidates, Mamadou Samassa, has been with Mali since 2012, so quite a long time, but only 17 caps in that time. And Mamadou Samassa is 35 years old. He plays for Stade Lavallois in France since 2023. Most of his teams, especially early in his career, were in France, but recently he played in Malaysia and Greece and Turkey prior to that. So went traveling from about 2019, but now is back in France. He was born in France and has not been selected for any African Cup since the 2013 African Cup. He was a starter in that one and then not called up for any of the 5 cups since then. However, he's kind of back in the picture now and as a possible candidate. The other possible candidate is N'Golo Traore. He's new to the team since 2024. He does have one cap, and he is 24 years old. And he's, I think, the only player on the senior team who is playing in Mali. So there's Stade Malien, their top club again since 2022. He was on the preliminary roster last time around, didn't make the final cut, and then was off the team for 17 months, but he returned in June of 2024. Yes, one of my sources credits him for a start, and one of them don't. It might have been an African national championship game. Nevertheless, he was on the bench for 6 matches, including the last one, and that may be significant. Okay, that's it for introducing the candidates. Let's do a summary of the position. So Djigui Diarra started all 5 games in the African Cup in January of 2024. After the first game of March 2024, he was on the bench, and he was replaced for 2 games by not our likely candidate Ismail Diawara, but our possible candidate Mamadou Samassa. And actually the same thing happened for the last 2 games in October of 2025, where for some reason Djigui Diarra was not on the squad. And again, rather than the likely candidate being selected, it was Mamadou Samassa, the possible candidate for being selected. Now, you would think then that Mamadou Samassa should be the likely candidate, but he was actually off the team kind of in the middle of the period for a string of 11 games. And so that's why we had to move him down to possible. But of course, he did come back at the end. And then there was a bit of back and forth among the backup keepers, some of them not being called up. And as we saw, some of them kind of being tried out. Yes, the newcomer we did put on the list, N'Golo Traore, we have him as possible because he was there at the end for the last game. The others kind of came and went during the middle of the tournament. Okay, well, we are not going to predict who the starter is going to be, but it does make it a bit interesting that Djigui Diarra was not selected for the last 2 games. But in part 2, that's when we're going to talk about our predictions. So we're really just introducing the candidates here, and we move on to defense, and specifically central defense. And we start with our definite candidates. We have Mamadou Fofana, and we have, that's the only definite candidate. At the likely level, we have Sekou Niakate, and then 3 possible candidates, Abdoulaye Diaby, Ibrahim Cissé, and Kamara Usman. And then at the possible but unlikely level, we have Cheikh Keita. So we're going to deal with these players as we go here. He actually first appeared in September 2024, and he did start a game. He was on the bench for 2, but then not selected mostly after that, including the last 4 matches. So we think Cheikh Keita unlikely. And also we have the player seemed to be off the team that we mentioned in part 1, Kiki Kouyaté. So he was with the team since 2019. He's 28 years old, so he's not aging out, just not being selected. And he plays for Royal Antwerp in Belgium since 2025, and Montpellier in France before that, with French teams mostly. Okay, so he was part of the 2019, the last 3 African Cups, and he was a starter in the last 2. So we wouldn't be shocked if he came back, but he did last appear in June of 2024. So Kiki Kouyaté, I think I gave a bit more information on him there because I almost think he's going to come back, because really we don't have enough central defenders to choose from here. And there we have it. The other one is Modibo Sagnan. Sorry, I butchered that. Modibo Sagnan, who is Joined the team, got his first cap in March 2023, started the first 4 of their 17 games over this period, so March and June 2024, but then he didn't appear after that, so he seems to be off the team. That's Modi B. Sangnan. Okay, well, we won't talk about those players anymore, but we will go back to the definite, likely, impossible players and introduce them. So Mamadou Fofana has been with Mali since 2017, 48 caps and 1 goal, and is 27 years old. He actually plays in the USA for New England Revolution. He's the only one on Mali playing on this continent here. He's been with them since 2024. But prior to that, like most Mali players, he was with kind of secondary clubs in France, Amiens, Metz, and he also played for a club in Turkey. Mamadou Fofana was a starter in the 2029 African Cup, just on the bench in 2021, and a substitute in 2 games in the 2023 African Cup. But he's been starting more recently, started 11 games and just 1 that he wasn't selected for. So we have him as a definite candidate here. We move to the likely candidate, Sekou Niakhaté. He's fairly new to the team since 2023, but he has 18 caps and 1 goal for them, and he's 26 years old, so joined the team a bit late there. He plays for Braga in Portugal since 2023, and yes, mostly secondary French clubs prior to that. He was with Paris Saint-Germain Youth Club in France, but then a lot of players were, so don't think too much of that. Niakhaté was born in France and played for their underage teams, and he was selected for the 2023 African Cup and started and finished all 5 games there. However, over the recent period, he's only started 7 of their 17 games and was not selected for 7 matches, including the last 2. So we do think he's a likely candidate. But yes, a bit worrying there in having not been selected there. Okay, I didn't know how to finish that sentence. The first of our possible candidates is Abdoulaye Diaby, and there is a famous player of that name, but this is not him. He is just new to the team since 2024, but he does have 9 caps already, and is 25 years old, so he too a bit old when he joined. He plays for Grasshoppers in Switzerland since 2024, and another team in Switzerland, but he was born in Mali, Abdoulaye Diaby. So he got his first cap in March of 2024, right after the Cup, and started 9 of their games. So you may wonder, why is he just at the possible level? The reason is he was not selected for 4 of the last 5 matches, so seemed to be drifting off the team. After those matches in October, he was tagged with a muscle injury, so we're going to talk about that at the end and see how serious that is. But I'll just say here that he has an injury tag on him. Second possible candidate is Ibrahima Cissé. He plays for Schalke in Germany since 2022, and with Ghent in Belgium prior to that. He was born in France, and he first appeared on the bench in March of 2024, and didn't start any games, but was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 5. However, he was not selected for the last 2 matches, so Ibrahima Cissé, just a possible candidate here. Okay, next we have Moussa Diarra. Moussa Diarra. We're going to talk about him as a left back because that's where he's been playing, but he is coded as a centre back. So we'll talk about him later. Ousmane Kamara is the other one, and he is brand new to the team since 2025. He's earned 3 caps so far and just 22 years old. Born in France and plays for, again, secondary teams in France, Angers and Paris FC, and got his first appearance in September 2025. and started one of their remaining 4 games there. So I wonder if the other 2 caps are in. Oh no, he was subbed in for 2. Those are his other 2 caps. And on the bench for 1. So selected for all of the fall games, Ousmane Kamara. So perhaps making his way into the squad. Okay, that's central defence. That's a lot of players we're talking about. But remember, we are talking about 2 or 3 positions here. So they need a few more players. In fact, those 5 players is really not enough. And that's why I think Kiku Kouyaté may actually come back. It was Kiki Kouyaté and Siku Niakate who were the starting pair throughout the whole of the African Cup, all 5 games in January 2024. However, Kiki Kouyaté played his last game for the team shortly after, and Niakate started only 1 game in March and then was basically off the team for a while. So those 2 players weren't the ones going forward. In fact, there was a bit of experimentation after the Cup. But by the fall of 2024, it had settled down to a pairing of Mamadou Fofana, our definite candidate here, and Abdoulaye Diaby, the possible candidate. For the last game, Siku Niakate returned and replaced one or the other going forward. I think that's not the last game. I think that's in the last period in the fall of 2025. And in fact, by the fall of 2025, Niakate and Fofana were the starters. But then Niakate didn't play again in October and Abdoulaye Diaby returned. So a bit of shifting around there during and especially at the end, but our main candidates there are Niakate, Fofana, and Abdoulaye Diaby, although a bit worrying that he wasn't used at the end there. Okay, let's go to left backs. And they've really struggled to fill this position. So we're going to be looking at largely out of position players here. However, the first one, Amadou Dante, is a left back, and he is a likely candidate. And then Moussa Diarra, I accidentally mentioned him as a central defender because he's coded as one. But during this period, he's been playing on the left side here. And then we have a couple of less likely candidates who we'll dispense with quickly here. 2 at the possible but unlikely level. The first one, Daouda Guindo. Daouda Guindo got a couple of starts, but didn't appear on the bench after June of 2024. And the other one is Ousmane Diallo, and he has been with the team since 2022, but in short has not been selected for the last 7 matches. So we will give more details on these players if they're selected for the final squad. We'll do that in part 2, but for the time being, we'll just leave it at that. The other one is Fele Sako. And he is seemingly off the squad. He's actually coded as a right back, but we saw in the previous mediacast in 2023 he was playing a bit as a central defender, and in this period we see him playing as a left back. So we won't go into detail on him. He is a veteran for the team since 2018 with 42 caps and was a starter in the African Cup in 2023, but last appeared in June of 2024. So that's as much. No, I will say his age. He's 30 years old. So again, not too old to come back into the picture, I would say. Let's introduce the candidates then. Amadou Dante has been with the team since 2022 and has 15 caps. He's 25 years old and he plays for Arouca in Portugal. So again, maybe a club that a lot of people wouldn't recognize. Prior to that, though, he was with Sturm Graz in Austria, maybe a more recognizable club. And he also was loaned to FC Zurich in Switzerland during that time. He was selected, Amadou Dante, for the African Cup in 2023, but he only appeared in Game 3, which was a partial B team game. And on top of that, he was subbed into it. So a bit odd because he really is the only player coded as a left back, and it seemed like that becomes recognized halfway through this period. But back in the previous African Cup, it looks like they weren't thinking of him as a starter, even though he's the only one coded for that position. Next, we have Moussa Diarra, the centre back who has moved to left back because all of his starts have been here. He has been with Mali since 2023 with 6 caps, and he's 25 years old, just a possible candidate here. He plays for Alaves in Spain since 2024, and another of the French-born players who played for kind of secondary clubs in France. Toulouse, in his case, both their youth club and their senior club. Moussa Diarra was selected for the 2023 African Cup, appeared only in Game 3, and in fact he was the player that Amadou Dante replaced. So he started Game 3 but was subbed out at 68 there. So Moussa Diarra started 2 of the 17 games over the period, and however he was not selected for 14 other matches, including the last 5. So that should put him at the possible but unlikely level. But for reasons outside of his participation, we think he might be a bit more likely than the other ones, especially since he has actually played in that position over the period. Okay, let's go to a summary of the left back position before we move on. So they had no viable left back for this position going into the cup. They had Amadou Dante, but didn't seem to favor him there. So Fele Sako, a right back, or he plays all over the defense now. He started 4 of the 5 games in the left back position, and Moussa Diarra, a centre back, played Game 3 there. Sako played his last game for Mali in June 2024, but that was as a right back. The Daouda Guindo, our possible but unlikely candidate, started the next 4 games after the Cup, but then promptly disappeared from the team. For the fall 2024 games, right back Fode Doucouré came in for 4 games, but finally in November, they landed on Amadou Dante as if they had discovered him, or what might have happened is that his form is improved, and he returned to the team basically having been off it since the African Cup there. So yes, Amadou Dante became the starter going forward. He played the June 2025 game and all of the fall 2025 games. So Moussa Diarra also playing in the March 2025 games there. That's why we think he's a possible candidate. But yes, from June onwards, Amadou Dante was the man. So again, we'll come to predictions in part 2. When we look at part 2, we'll hopefully have a couple of games closer to the Cup to help us with the predictions there. Okay, that's the situation on the left side of defense. Let's move over to the right backs. And we have no definite candidates here, but we have 2 possible ones. Cheikh Oumar Konate is the first, and Fode Doucouré, who we saw playing on the left for a couple of games there over here as a right back. He's a likely candidate. And then 2 possible candidates, Salim Diakite and Woyo Koulibaly. And we will take a look more closely at those 4 players. Fele Sako, he is a right back, but we dealt with him as a left back this time. We also have another kind of player off the squad here, and that's Hamari Traore. Hamari Traore was the captain of the team, seems to be off the squad now. So He has been, he's 33 years old. So again, not too old to come back, but he has 59 caps and 3 goals since 2015 and has been a starter in every cup since the 2017 African Cup. So that's 4 cups in a row. He was a starter in all of them and a captain for the last 2 of them. He did play after the Cup, actually, in January 2024, but March 2024 was his last appearance for the national team. So Hamari Traore, one of several players who they've lost. So a lot of these players are actually quite new. Check Umar Konate, he's the first of our likely candidates, been with the team since 2024 with 3 caps and no goals. He's 21 years old and he plays for Clermont Foot in France. So a secondary, maybe tertiary team there. Got his first appearance, Check Umar Konate, on the bench in November 2024 and he started 2 of their games. He was on the bench for 5, subbed in for 1. So just 1 match that he was not selected for. So we think he's a likely candidate in terms of being selected for the squad, not so much in terms of being a starter. And in fact, we should put Fode Doucouré ahead of him because he's more of a starter. Nevertheless, Fode Doucouré is new to the squad since 2024 with 7 caps and no goals, and he's 24 years old. He plays for Le Havre in France and also played for Red Star in France, but he was born in Mali. Fode Doucouré, he got his first cap in September 2024, started 7 games and then was on the bench for 4. The only 2 matches that he missed was due to injury, which he's recovered from. So Fode Doucouré probably even more likely there. The first possible candidate, also with Mali since 2024. He's got 8 caps and is 25 years old. He plays for Palermo in Italy and another Italian club before that. Salim Diakite was born in France also. And he got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2024. He started 8 of their remaining matches. But he was not selected for the last 2. So we moved Diakite down to the possible level. Always a bit worrying when players miss matches just before the cup. But we'll see. Finally, we have possible candidate Woyo Koulibaly. He's with the team since 2025 and he has 2 caps and is 26 years old. So all of these players, or most of them, joining a bit late. Woyo Koulibaly plays for Leicester in England since 2025, or at least is on their roster because he's on loan to Sassuolo in Italy, and he played for Parma in Italy for 4 years before that. Woyo Koulibaly was born in France, got his first cap in June of 2025, and he started 2 matches, including the last one. So started 2 of the 5 games, but wasn't selected for 3 others. So that's why we have him just at the possible level. So those are our candidates on the right back position. Let's look at how the position has played out over the recent period. So Hamari Traore played his Hamari Traore was the starter there because Fele Salako was on the left side. Hamari Traore played his last game in March of 2025. Newcomer Salim Diakite took over the position in June 2024 and started the next 5 games. After that, he was on and off, though, and various players came in to the position when it wasn't him. And there were 3 players, actually. Each of them had 2 starts. So Check Umar Konate at first, and then Fode Doucouré, and then newcomer Woyo Koulibaly more recently. So all of these candidates are quite possible, and yes, not sure what is going to happen on the right side. But again, maybe we'll get some more information in those games closer to the cup. But that is it for defense, and we move on to the midfield here. And let me just tell you a little bit about the midfield. They use a 4-2-3-1 formation about half of the time, 53%. So in those games, we do have a defined defensive midfielder and central midfielder. In the other half, it's just one line of midfield, a 4-4-2. But again, remember what I said in part one, that 4-4-2, at least in March of 24, is a 4-1-2-1. And then two forwards, so that 1-2-1, a diamond formation. So maybe there is a bit of separation between defensive and central midfielders there too. Okay, but we are going to handle them separately, even though when there's just one line of midfield, it might be either a defensive or a central midfielder. Okay, let's take a look at our candidates then for the defensive midfielders. We have a definite candidate in Aliou Dieng, and the announcer in the cup called it like one syllable, Dieng. There, I tend to say like Dieng. A likely candidate in Mohamed Kamara, that's Mohamed Kamara 2. But I think he's the only one left on the team, so we don't need to worry too much about distinguishing him. We have Ibrahima Sissoko as a possible candidate, and then Diadi Samaseku as a possible but unlikely candidate, as well as Fadi Siddiqui Koulibaly. I'll deal with these guys as I go. So Diadi Samaseku, a veteran with the team since 2016 with 42 caps and 1 goal. He's actually only 29 years old. So it doesn't seem like a kind of a retirement situation, but he did last appear in June 2024. He was selected for the last 3 African Cups, so a bit of a veteran and maybe making his way off the squad there. The other one, Fadi Siddiqui Koulibaly, was not selected for the last 7 matches. So again, we'll give you more information if he is selected for the squad. And then seemingly off the squad, Mamadi Diambu, last appeared on the bench in November 2024. Cheick Doucouré, he's just 25 years old, but he hasn't played for the national team for a while, only 14 caps with them. But he's with a big club, Crystal Palace in England, but last appeared on the bench in November 2023. So it seems like he just doesn't play for Mali. And the last one, Ousmane Diakate, not selected for the last 11 matches. So we won't talk more about those guys. Let's go back to the main candidates. Aliou Dieng has been with Mali since 2015, 41 caps and 2 goals, and he is 28 years old and plays for Al Ahly in Egypt since 2019. However, he was recently loaned to a Saudi Arabian club, but now he's back with Al Ahly. He was a substitute in the 2021 African Cup and a starter in the 2023 African Cup, but he did lose his starting position after game 1 there. And Aliou Dieng has started 14 of their 17 games, so a definite candidate here. Mohamed Kamara is with Mali since 2019. He has 34 caps and 3 goals and is 25 years old. He plays for Al Saad in Qatar since 2024 and had also played for Monaco in the French League and Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, so a pretty good resume for him. Mohamed Kamara has been selected since the 2021 African Cup, a sub in both that and the more recent 2023 version, but getting more field time here, starting 9 of their 17 games there, and just 1 match that he wasn't selected for. So Mohamed Kamara. The possible candidate is Ibrahima Sissoko. He has been with the team since 2023 with just 3 caps and no goals. He's 28 years old, So pretty late in joining the team there. He plays for Bochum in Germany, is French-born, and selected for the previous African Cup, but was off the team for a while, for a year, until he returned in October 2024. But he has been injured for the last 4 games, so we'll update that in section 3. Ibrahima Sissoko, an injury concern. Okay, let us look at, well, we're going to do this a bit differently here because the midfield is quite confusing with various formations and a lot of different players coming in and out. So we think it'll confuse you more than help you to try to describe all that. What we're going to do is just go through the players and their participation over the period. So we'll actually start with the player who is at the possible but unlikely level, almost off the squad, Diadi Semaseku. He started 2 games in the African Cup, and he started both of the March 2024 games, but he played his last game for Mali in June of 2024, so seems to be off the team, as we've been saying. The next one is our definite candidate, Aliou Dieng. He did start twice in the Cup, and he was out with a knee injury in March of 2024, but he returned for the second game in June and then became a permanent starter for all games after. So a definite candidate there. He started 14 of their 17 games during the period, as I think I said when we introduced him. Next, we have Mohamed Kamara. He started 1 game in the Cup, and then he was in and out as a starter over the period, so no particular pattern there, but I might say that it was a bit less towards the end. So Mohamed Kamara got 9 starts in all, so half of the games roughly. And finally, the possible candidate, Ibrahima Sissoko, didn't start any games. He got 2 appearances as a substitute after he was recalled after a year-long absence. But then, as I said, injured for the last 4 games. So we'll have to see when we get to or our section 3 here, how serious that injury is. That's defensive midfielders. Let's move on to central midfielders. And we have a definite candidate in Lassana Coulibaly, and also in Mamadou Sangaré, both of those definite. A likely candidate in Yves Bissouma. I'm going to try to say that again. Yves Bissouma. I apologize to him and his family. That's all the candidates we have here. So let's go back and look at them in a bit more detail. Lassana Coulibaly has been with the team since 2016. He's got 50 caps and 1 goal and is 29 years old. And he plays for Lecce in Italy right now. He played for 1 team in Lecce and in France and Belgium, as well as Rangers in Scotland. He was loaned to them. Lassana Coulibaly was selected for all the African Cups since 2017. He was a starter in the first 2, but in 2021 and 2023, he was just started as a substitute. He actually did gain a starting position in the 2023 African Cup and has been starting a lot, 11 of their 17 games over this period, just 2 matches that Lassana Coulibaly was not selected for. Next, we have Mamadou Sangaré, very new to the team since 2024 and only 23 years old, but he does have 9 caps already. He plays for Lens in France, and he also played for a couple of teams in Austria, including Red Bull Salzburg. So he got his first cap, Mamadou Sangaré, in September of 2024 and started 3 of their games. But he was never not selected. That's why we have him as a definite. He was subbed in for 6 and on the bench for 3. And the one that he wasn't called up for was because of injury. So we think he's a definite candidate for selection, although that may deceive you into thinking he's a starter. He's really not. Next, we have Yves Bissouma. He has an injury tag on him. And Well, I don't think I'll go into the bio because he's definitely going to be out for the cup. What I will say about it, because his name comes up quite a bit, is in addition to being a central midfielder, uh, he you'll see him all over the place. He plays as a forward, so in a couple of positions as a forward, a central attacking midfielder and a co-forward among them. So yes, a big player for the team since the African Cup in 2017, but struggled with injury over the period. He only started 8 of their 17 games. He had a knee injury and then a recurring knee injury. And then, well, we'll talk about it in section 3, what happened to him in the last game. Too bad, Yves Bissouma, because a very good player. Let's talk about a summary of the position, or again, we'll just go through the players and kind of talk about their journey over the last couple of years. Yves Bissouma started 2 games in the Cup, but he was not called up in March and then had a knee injury in June, so he played no games. He did return in September to start regularly until June of 2025. But in September of 2025, his knee injury recurred. However, he did return for the last game, and we'll tell you in section 3 what happened there. So, Lassina Koulibaly, he had 3 starts in the Cup, and really played as a right winger in the Cup and for the first part of this period, all the way until June 2024. And then he returned to the midfield. So he was a bit in and out of the starting lineup, but he did end up starting 11 of the 17 games. And, he is a definite candidate for call-up, we believe. Finally, Mamadou Sangaré joined the team for the fall games in 2024. There, he only started 3, but as we said, he was always called up and subbed into most games. So that's the midfield. So between defensive and central midfielders, we have. Well, you can see it right here. We have 6 candidates there, and we'll be filling 2 to 3 positions. If we go back to the formations, it's a 4-2-3-1 in half of their games. So just two central midfielders or midfielders required there. Defensive midfielders, that's the word I'm looking for. And then often in that 4-1-2-1-2 diamond formation, we do see 3 of them. So that's we often see Lassina Koulibaly playing on the right of that diamond, or else as a right winger altogether. Those are the central midfielders. We do have categories for right and left midfielders anymore, but or here, but they're kind of going out of fashion. Even though some teams have a 4-3-3 formation, it's just central midfielders filling those roles. So we're actually done with the midfield, and we can move on to the attacking end of the field. And now we're talking about attacking midfielders. And this is kind of our own category we've created where, depending on the formation, it could be a different position, like a winger in a 4-4-2, a left or right attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1, or a left or right forward in a 4-3-3. We found that often it's the same players regardless. So that's why we developed this category. Let's look at the candidates. And we have a definite candidate in Georgelis Neni. Georgelis is how his name was pronounced in the African Cup. So I'll go with that, Georgelis Neni. And he's actually coded as a forward, but we moved him here because this is where he's been playing. We have a likely candidate in Gawusu Diarra, likely to be called up because he's not much of a starter, but we think he's likely to be named to the squad. We have a possible candidate in Amadou Haidara, and also in Mamadou Kamara, not to be confused with the one we met, Mohamed Kamara. And off the squad is Musa Djenepo, as well as being an injury concern, but seemingly off the squad, even though he's just 27 years old. He's playing for Istiklal in Iran. That's actually a pretty big club in Iran since 2025. That's kind of interesting. He was with Standard Liège before that, and many may know him from playing for Southampton in England, and was part of African Cup since the 2019 African Cup, but was not selected, somewhat surprisingly, for the African Cup in 2023, and in fact has not been selected for the club or for the national team since October of 2024. So that is Musa Djenepo, and we have another player seemingly off the squad, a big player, Moussa Doumbia. He is a veteran since 2014 with 43 caps and 6 goals. He is 31 years old. So again, none of these players really that old. And he's currently with Sochaux in France, actually his second stint with them. Moussa Doumbia has been part of African Cup squad since the 2017 edition. But never as a starter over the last 4 cups, and last appeared for the team in March of 2024. So really thinning out the herd here is Mali, which is good because like last time we did them, they had way too many candidates. It was really chaotic to deal with. Anyway, let's look at the likely ones, or the more likely ones here, beginning with the definite candidate, Dorgelis Neni. He has been with Mali since 2022, but has 27 caps and 7 goals, 8 goals, just 23 years old. He scored 3 of their goals in qualifying for this cup and 3 of their goals in World Cup 2026 qualifying. So he's become quite important to them. Dorgelis Neni plays for Fenerbahce in Turkey, a recent move there. He was with Red Bull Salzburg in Austria for 4 years before that, although he was loaned out to a few teams. Did make it to the 2023 African Cup there. He started only in game 3, but he did sub into 3 games besides, so kind of started making his name known there. He had scored 2 of the goals in qualifying, but actually didn't score in the cup. Anyway, over the recent period, he started 7 of their 17 games. Oh, I thought it would be more, just 7. But he was subbed in for 5, 3 matches that he wasn't selected for. Anyway, more kind of on reputation, I guess, as a scorer. Scoring quite a few of their goals. We have Dorgelis Neni as a definite candidate. Next, we have Gawusu Diarra. As I said, not much of a starter. But anyway, new to the team since 2025 with 5 caps and 1 goal. And he's just 23 years old and playing for Feyenoord in Netherlands since 2025, and was with a couple of clubs in Turkey before that. He scored 1 of their goals in qualifying, but that was for the 2026 World Cup qualification. So he got his first cap in June 2025 and started just 1 of their remaining 5 games, but he subbed in for the other 4. So kind of making inroads very recently, Gawusu Diarra. First of our 2 possible candidates is Amadou Haidara. He's a pretty experienced player with Mali since 2017 with 47 caps and 2 goals, and is 27 years old and plays for Leipzig in Germany since 2019, so with them for quite a while. I'll say here he was with Red Bull in Salzburg in Austria from 2016 to 18. I'm only saying that because that does seem to be a bit of a conduit for Mali players, including being loaned out to a smaller club, Liefering, as he was. I've seen, I think, 3 or 4 players at least following that path there. Okay, let's talk about his tournament career. He was part of the 2019 African Cup squad, subbed into game one, and then got a starting position. He was a starter in the last two African Cups. However, over the period, Amadou Haidara only started 3 of their 17 games, and was not selected for 6 matches. So we have him just as a possible candidate here. The other possible candidate is Mamadou Kamara. He's new to the squad since 2025. He has 3 caps and no goals, and is 24 years old. He was born in France and plays for Stade Lavallois in France since 2024. He got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2024. Didn't start any games, so his 3 caps were all as a substitute, and then he was not selected for the last 2 matches, so we have him as just a possible candidate. Okay, those are the candidates. Let's look at the position. I should say, I think I said Dorgelis Nene was a forward. Amadou Haidara is actually coded as an attacking midfielder / defensive midfielder, so they don't have a lot to choose from, and it's kind of out of position players over here. But in the cup, it was attacking midfielder Amadou Haidara playing the role, except for game 4 when forward Dorgelis Nene played as a winger. Haidara continued in that role for the March 2024 games, and then forward Lassine Sinayoko came in for the games in June. Moussa Djenepo played the first 2 September games, but from November of 2024, Dorgelis Nene has dominated the position, so we think he's kind of taken ownership of the left attacking. So we might actually change his coding if he continues to do that. Let's go to the right side of the attacking midfielders. And here we also have trouble filling the spots even more than on the left side. In fact, we have no definite, likely, or possible candidates. We just have possible but unlikely Adama Traore Malouda. Adama Traore Malouda, will just deal with him right now. Actually, very experienced with the team, 61 caps, and has been part of the team since the 2019 African Cup. However, he wasn't selected for the last Cup. We were very surprised by that, thought it might be a mix-up of names between Adama Traore Malouda and Adama Traore Nos, but no, it wasn't. He was not selected, and he did come back, though. He started 3 games over the period, but he was not selected for the last 7 matches, so we think he's unlikely to make it to this cup. We have a couple of players seemingly off the squad. Fousseni Diabate. He played in the in the last African Cup, just starting game 3, which was a partial B team game. Fousseni Diabate, though, last appeared in March of 2024, so we won't go into detail on him. Nor will we on Ibrahim Diarra. He was on the preliminary squad. That's when we first learned of him for the last African Cup, but he actually still hasn't been called up at all. So, yeah, well, we won't spend time on him. Well, what we'll do here is talk about the position, because you're probably wondering who played it. And actually, I think we've mentioned who played it. Central midfielder Lassana Coulibaly played the position 3 times in the Cup, part of that diamond midfield formation, so kind of halfway between a winger and a central midfielder. Lassana Coulibaly played in 3 games of the Cup, and continued into June 2024. But then, as we saw earlier, he moved back into the midfield. That's why we didn't put his name over here, because he really is a central midfielder. After he stopped playing in the position, it was unsettled after that. Several out-of-position players appearing there, and most of them twice. So I have a list of 3 or 4 names here. of players who've been in it. The first one is Adama Traore Malouda. He played twice, but that was in September 2024, and he's drifted off the team since. Next, we have attacking midfielder Kamori Doumbia. We'll meet him soon. He played the position twice in November 2024. We have Yves Busima, second time I've done that, central midfielder Yves Bissouma. He played it in March of 2025. And then over the period, Lassine Sinayoko, who will meet as a forward, played it twice. And then several players played it once. So very undecided over here. However, in the last match, attacking midfielder Kamori Doumbia returned to the position. So he ended up playing 3, which is slightly more than everyone else, and the last match. So right now, he's our best bet over in this position, but as I said, very undecided. Okay, that is it for right attackers. We're going to look at central attacking midfielders now. So think of the 4-2-3-1 formation that they use about half of the time, and it is the middle player in that line of 3. Okay, and we have the player we just mentioned, Kamori Doumbia, as a definite candidate. Sorry for that pause. No players at the likely level. And then we moved a couple of players. Amadou Haidara is an attacking midfielder, or is coded as such, but he's been playing in the central midfield. And Adama Traore Malouda, also coded as an attacking midfielder, but we put him over as a right attacking midfielder. We have the other Adama Traore here, Adama Traore Nos, as a player. However, he seems to be off the squad, which there's been so much confusion over the years between Adama Traore Nos and Adama Malouda Traore that it might make it easier. Anyway, Adama Traore Nos is a veteran with the team since 2015, actually only 34 caps and 3 goals. Both of them were born in June of 1995. That was part of the confusion. He was playing for Hull in England when selected for the last cup. Now he's with a smaller club in Europe or in Turkey. I don't even know this one, Ahmedspor in Turkey. He had been in Turkey before. Hatayspor. I don't know if he was in Hatayspor when the earthquake happened there. Anyway, I'm getting into it too much here. Adama Traore Nos, part of the tournament since the 2017 African Cup. We didn't expect him to be selected for the 2023 African Cup last time, but not only did he get selected, but he started. He subbed into game 3 and then started games 4 and 5. He missed a penalty in that tournament, didn't have a very good tournament, and actually was not called up to the national team afterwards. I don't know whether that's because of his performance or possibly because of his age. We're seeing a lot of the players in their 30s. He's 30. Players in their 30s dropping off the squad here. So Adama Traore Nos, again, young enough to come back, but seems to be off the squad for now. Let's look at the role of central attacker. Well, in the 4-4-2 formation of the Cup, normally there's sometimes an attacking midfielder, but because of the diamond formation in the midfield, there actually is an attacking midfielder, and it was Kamori Doumbia playing that position in all 4 games in the Cup. In all 4 games. Yes, all 4 games where there was an attacking midfielder. Game 3 was just a flat 4-4-2. So central midfielders there. Over the period from March 2024 to now, the 4-2-3-1 formation was used about half of the time. So this position was used half of the time. It wasn't actually Kamori Doumbia filling it in the early part of the period. he came back to it in March of 2025 and played it twice then and twice in the fall of 2025. Sometimes he was playing in other positions. We're going to see him as a forward, Komori Doumbia. So, yes, but nobody was there consistently enough for us to mention. So he does seem like the main man, if they use the position at all, which they actually don't use. That position doesn't exist all the time. Okay, let's go to the forward line. No players coded as secondary strikers, so we go right to forwards. And I remember last time we had a mass of players, but several of them have dropped off the team. We have no one at the definite level, but at the likely level, we have Mamadou Doumbia, and we also have Latine Sinayoko, who sometimes plays on the left or even on the right, attacking midfield. Our third of four likely candidates is Mustafa Sanger, and then we have Musa Silla. I actually forgot to say, going back to attacking midfielders, that Komori Doumbia is an injury concern. And we will have to come back to him in section 3 and give you more information about that. What reminded me of that is that our first possible candidate, El Bilal Toure, is an injury concern, sadly, just as he was in the last Cup. And we also update that in section 3. But he's the only candidate at the possible level, but we have a few at the possible but unlikely. So the first one is Sekou Koita. He has 36 caps for the national team. He's been around for a while, was part of the 2019 and 2023 African Cup squads, but was injured for the 2021 version. He started games 1 and 2 actually in 2023, but then lost his starting position. And he has not been selected for the last 5 matches. He didn't start any games actually after the Cup, but was subbed in for 8. But as I said, not selected for the last 5 matches. So Sekou Koita, possible but unlikely. Also possible but unlikely, Ibrahima Kone, been with the team since 2017. He has 22 caps and 13 goals, which is pretty impressive, but not impressive enough, it seems. He's just 26 years old and was a starter in the 2021 African Cup, but not selected due to injury for the 2023 African Cup. However, we have him as unlikely here because he was not selected for the last 6 matches there. And he was off the team for a little bit as well. So hasn't really been active for the last while. Next, Yusufu Niakate. And I'm going to move along a bit more quickly there. Not selected for the last 5 matches. This was part of the problem when we did the last mediacast, because we had all of these players, all of them starting like 2 or 3 matches. So we had no idea who was going to be nominated. But it looks like they're kind of thinning out the squad a little bit here. Our fourth possible but unlikely candidate is Alassane Plia. And he was selected for the preliminary squad but didn't make the final cut. French born, it seems like he still hasn't committed to Mali yet, so we don't really know if he's a Mali player. But he played 1 game for France in 2018. So he's eligible for Mali, but has yet to decide, it seems. And then we have a few players seemingly off the squad. The first one, Sori Ibrahim Diarra, last appeared in September of 2024. Serine Doucouré last appeared. No, he was actually selected for the 2023 African Cup, but not even on the bench for any of the 5 games. So, and actually has yet to appear for the national team, even on the bench, despite being selected for a tournament. Next, Ibrahim Sissoko, part of the team for the last African Cup, but not selected since March of 2024. Boubacar Traore, also part of the squad for the 2023 African Cup, but not appearing after that, not called up to the team after that. And finally, Amadi Camara, just a 20-year-old there, who was got his first cap in September 2024 and not called up for the last 9 matches. So what a list there. We have 14 players on the list. Fortunately, we only have to go into detail on the first 5 of them. 4 likely candidates and 1 possible candidate. So let's take a look at Mamadou Doumbia, the first of them. Just 19 years old, he got his first cap in 2024 and has 5 caps and 1 goal, and plays for Watford in England. Was named to the preliminary squad for the last cup. That's when his name first popped up, but he wasn't selected. He got his first cap just after in March of 2024. He only started 1 game, but he was subbed in for 4, and he got a goal in qualifying for this cup. And then of the 16 matches, there were only 4 that he was not selected for. So we think Mamadou Doumbia not necessarily a starter, but likely to be named to the squad. Next is Lassine Sinayoko, and I probably should have his name ahead in the list here because he is a starter. He's been with Mali since 2021 with 26 caps and 6 goals since 1999. He scored 2 of their goals in World Cup 2026 qualifying, but none for this tournament. He plays for Auxerre in France since 2021 and was part of the 2021 African Cup. Not a starter there, but he was in the 2023 Cup, started all 5 games in that tournament, and started 8 games, 8 of their 17 games, so about half of them over this period. He wasn't selected for 7 matches, but for other reasons, we think he's a likely candidate there. Okay, next we have Mustafa Sangara. Mustafa Sangara, new to the team since 2025, although he is 27 years old, and he had 5 caps since starting. He was born in France, but plays for Levski Sofia in Bulgaria, and he got his first cap this year in March of 2025, started 3 of their remaining 6 games and subbed in for 2, and was on the bench for the other. So being called up consistently, if only recently. And finally, our 4th likely candidate, Musa Silla, also fairly new to the team since 2024. He has 6 caps and no goals, and is 26 years old and plays for Schalke in Germany since 2024. He was born in France as well. So he got his first cap in March of 2024. Didn't start any of the games, but was subbed in for 6 of them. And then just 4 games that he was not selected for. So we think, really kind of between possible and between likely and possible there. We put him as likely. Okay, we just have 1 possible candidate to deal with. That's the unfortunate El Bilal Toure. He's been on the team since 2020. He has 25 caps and 9 goals. Is 24 years old, and he plays for Atalanta in Italy since 2023. And he was actually born in the Ivory Coast there. And for some reason, I remember him playing in the 2023 African Cup, which was in Ivory Coast. But no, I mean, I have him here as having not been selected because of injury. So he did play, though, in the 2021 African Cup there, and He was injured for the beginning of this period, as I said. That's what prevented him from being in the Cup. He returned in March of 2024 and started 9 of their 17 games. But he was injured for the last 2, and so he's an injury concern. So we'll update it. That would make 2 tournaments in a row that he's been injured for, which is too bad. Okay, well, those are our candidates. Let's look at the position over the period. It was a 2-man forward line in the last Cup, in the African Cup. Lacine Sinayoko played all 5 games, and for 2 of them, the first 2, he was accompanied by Sekou Koita, and for the last 2, by Adama Traore Nos. However, both of those players, Koita and Adama Traore Nos, are off the team effectively since then. They played a little bit after and then disappeared, whereas Sinayoko has remained. In the March 2024 games, Sinayoko is paired with the returning from injury El Bilal Toure. Sinayoko then actually moved to the left wing for the June games, and it was attacking midfielder Kamori Doumbia coming in for 2 games, and he played alongside 2 different partners. Both Sinayoko and Kamori Doumbia were out for most of the fall 2024 games, so El Bilal Toure became the main forward, and that continued into March 2025. But after that, he was out. So we had newcomer Mustafa Sangare coming in for the June 2025 friendly, and he also started twice in the fall of 2025 recently. But Sinayoko also came back for 2 starts, and Kamori Doumbia for 1 of them. So basically those are the players in the mix: Sinayoko, Doumbia, and Sangare, but perhaps not El Bilal Toure. Will be addressing that soon, because we're moving on to section 3 here. We've completed our look at the players, and let's go to section 3. And actually, we want to welcome new listeners here, because we're releasing this as a short version of part 1 of Mali's players. So in the full version, we did introduce the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. We gave some biographical information and some information on who's been playing in each position over the last while. So if you're just joining and want all those details, you can check out the full version. For those who've listened to the full version, this is just a summary of the lineups, and we're not concerning ourselves with starters at this point. With predictions of starters. We'll do that in part 2. Right now, we're just going to look at the candidates. So let's go. We have manager Tom Saint-Fiet taking them through the squad. And then for goalkeepers, we have no definite candidates, but 2 likely candidates in Jigwe Diarra and Ismail Diawara. And then 2 possible candidates in Mamadou Samassa and then Ngolo Traore. We have possible but unlikely candidates Lacine Diarra and Yusuf Koita, and seemingly off the squad, Abubakar Doumbia. Usually when we mention off the squad players, they're kind of veterans, maybe familiar names who are no longer on the squad. Let's look at central defenders. We have a definite candidate in Mamadou Fofana and a likely candidate in Sikou Niakate. And then 3 possible candidates: Abdoulaye Diaby, he's an injury concern, we'll talk about soon, Ibrahim Cissé, and Ousmane Camara. Possible but unlikely, we have Cheikh Keita, and then 2 players seemingly off the squad: Kiki Kouyaté and Modibo Sagnan. For left backs, we have no definite candidates, but a likely candidate in Amadou Dante and a possible candidate in central defender Moussa Diarra. Possible but unlikely, we have 2 candidates, Daouda Guindo and Ousmane Diallo. And then seemingly off the squad is Fele Sako. He's actually a right back, but he played left back in the last African Cup. For right backs here too, no definite candidate, but two likely candidates, Fode Doucouré and Cheikh Oumar Konate. And then we have two possible candidates with Salim Diakate and Moyo Koulibaly. And then seemingly off the squad is Hamari Traore. He was captain in the last two tournaments. On to the midfield, and we begin with defensive midfielders. We have a definite candidate in Aliou Dieng and a likely candidate in Mohamed Kamara the second. I won't get into the story. Let's go to the possible candidate, Ibrahima Sissoko, and then two possible but unlikely candidates, Diadi Samaseku, the veteran kind of drifting off the squad, and Fadi Sidiki Koulibaly. And then seemingly off the squad, three players, Mamadi Diambu, Cheikh Doucouré, and Ousmane Diakite. Central midfielders, we have two definite candidates here, Lassina Koulibaly and Mamadou Sangare, and then likely candidate Yves Busima, but he's been struggling with injury and is almost certainly out of the cup. We'll talk about that soon. Just three central midfielders there. No candidates coded as left or right midfielders. So we move on to the attacking line, and we have left attacking midfielders, Dorgelis Nene as a definite candidate, likely candidate Gausu Diarra, and possible candidates Amadou Haidara and Mamadou Kamara. And then two players seemingly off the squad, Musa Djenepo and Musa Doumbia. On the right side, no candidates at the definite, likely, or even possible level, out of position players playing over here. We have possible but unlikely attacking midfielder Adama Traore Malouda, or Adama Malouda Traore, and then seemingly off the squad, Fousseni Diabate and Ibrahim Diarra. Central attacking midfield, we moved a couple of players around, but we do have a definite candidate here in Kamori Doumbia, also an injury concern. And then seemingly off the squad, the other Adama Traore, that's Adama Traore Nos. And then we go to the forward line where we have a lot of names. Four likely candidates, no definite candidates though. The first likely candidate, Lassine Sinayoko. Then we have Mamadou Doumbia, Mustafa Sangare, and Moussa Silla. And then we have a possible candidate in El Bilal Toure, but he's also an injury concern. Four possible but unlikely candidates, Sekou Koita, Ibrahim Kone, Yusufu Niakate, and Alassane Plea. And then four, no, make it five, seemingly off the squad. Sori Ibrahim Diarra, Serine Doucouré, Ibrahim Sissoko, Boubacar Traore, and Amadi Kamara. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of players drifting off the squad. Let's go to our next order of business here, a review of injuries. We're going to have to make this quick. So we have, we'll go by position here. We have central defender Abdoulaye Diaby. He is out with a muscle injury since October 19th. That's actually after their international games, so pretty recent, with an unknown return date. So we have to put him in the unknown category. We'll have to update that in part two. We have defensive midfielder Ibrahima Sissoko. He was injured from August 2025 and missed the last four games in the fall of 2025. However, very recently he was listed as recovered in early November, and he is no longer on the injured list, so we can put him as recovered from injury. Next, we have central midfielder Yves Busima. Yves Busima, the poor guy, recovered from he was out injured twice during the period we're talking about. He recovered from a recurring knee injury enough to be subbed into their last game in October 2025. But after 6 minutes of play, he got injured and was stretchered off. And that turned out to be a ligament injury, and he's out indefinitely. But it seems to be a long-term injury. So we're going to put him in the out of contention category. Tottenham doesn't expect him to return to play for quite a while. That is too bad. Next, we have attacking midfielder Kamori Doumbia. He's a definite candidate. I should have mentioned Abdoulaye Diaby and Ibrahima Sissoko were only at the possible level. Yves Bissouma, I think he would be definite if he was fit, but has struggled with fitness over the whole period. Kamori Doumbia would be a big loss, though. He is a definite candidate, an attacking midfielder, and he got a knee injury in late October 2025. So again, after the international games in October. However, one source I saw said it was a minor injury. He was even being considered as being put on the field for their November 2nd game. So that's 2 months away from the Cup. So it seems that he will recover. I'm going to say he is expected back. And then finally, we have El Bilal Touré. This is also quite sad because he was injured for the last Cup. He missed the last 5 games in all. The first one was due to fitness. The next 2 were due to non-selection. And only the last 2 in October were due to injury. So he was injured for the last 2 games. However, he has returned to play for his club as of October 2025. So we can put El Bilal Touré in the recovered from injury, and perhaps he'll be available for this Cup. That's the injury situation. And I'm going to skip closing thoughts and go straight to the preview for part 2. So when we come to part 2, we will know what the preliminary and final squad looks like. So we'll be going through the list that we created here and telling you which ones made it and which ones didn't. That'll include notable non-selections, any surprise inclusions, and any new players. We'll also give updates on injuries or any new injuries. And one of the fun things is that we will predict starters in part 2. So stay tuned for that. That is the end of our look at Mali. And well, I don't have the goodbye graphic. So I'll just bid you farewell and hope we see you in part 2. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.